And just to give you a brief background, the hero of the story, Harry, has come from America and where he's lived all his life, and he's been summoned by his grandfather, who he's never met, who is the Duke of Danby, and and he doesn't exactly. Right. It's just he doesn't exactly have warm and fuzzy feelings for the Duke. But he doesn't exactly have warm and fuzzy feelings for the Duke. The Duke had banished his mother for marrying, as they say back in the 1800s, marrying out of her class, and so the Duke cut her out of her will, and they left her and her husband they went to America. And Harry's very bitter about this. So he's come back, even though he was summoned by the Duke. What he's actually come back for is he just really wants to come back, get his inheritance, sort of spit in the Duke's eye and leave. But he was wounded in one of the battles leading up to the War of 1812, and so he's running on empty, he's wounded, and pretty much penniless when he gets to this village, and he collapses in a church, basically at the feet of the daughter of the local vicar, Lily Beaumont. So that is the basis of the story, and he's spent his time recovering in the vicarage, and so I'm not sure how much more I want to go into that. I think we'll leave it there, and then I'm just going to start. And you can read it all online. Okay. Lily stepped into the house and shut the front door behind her. As she unwound her scarf and stomped the snow off her boots, voices came from the other room. She stiffened. Her first thought was of Harry, but the voice that replied was high and musical, and without a doubt, female. She silently berated herself for the moment of wild hope that had flared within her at the thought of Harry returning to her. Of course he would. He was the grandson of the Duke. What did he need with the spinster daughter of the local vicar, except perhaps a little sport while he recuperated? But rat. She made her way down the hall to the drawing room and poked her head in. Blanching at the sight of two very finely dressed young women, seated on the sofa opposite her chuckling father, Lily made to withdraw as quietly as possible. Her plan was foiled, however, when one of the women turned her head and caught her in the act. Lady Isabel Whitten caught her eye and smiled smugly, as though knowing there was no way for Lily to escape or pretend she hadn't seen them now. Lily ignored Isabel's raised eyebrow and laughing gaze as she stepped forward into the drawing room and greeted her father and Isabel's twin sister, Lady Emma, or rather Lady Heffield, as the entire village knew she had been married just the day before. As her father excused himself and left the parlor, Lily sank into a slight curtsy in front of the new Viscountess. My lady, may I offer congratulations on your marriage to Lord Heffield? You must be very happy, she murmured. She raised her head when only silence met her comment. The twins stared at her with slightly widened eyes, their lips parted in surprise. Although they were different in appearance as a rose and a tulip, in the moment the sisters looked like an impossibly lovely set of bookends. Lily furrowed her brow and sat opposite the women, her back stiff, not quite touching the sofa. It's worse than I expected, Isabel said thoughtfully. She exchanged a glance with her sister and took a reflective sip of her tea. Truly. Well, at least now we know it's mutual, Emma said, pouring another cup of tea and sitting back with a sigh. Lily looked from one sister to the other in bewilderment. She was at a loss. Sometimes it seemed as if the twins had their own language. Lily, you're one of our dearest friends. Why did you think you needed to curtsy to me? Emma asked gently. Isabel cocked her head to the side when Lily looked at her, obviously waiting for an explanation as well. Well, because, you're married to Viscount Heffield now. You're a lady of the realm, and I'm but a commoner, Lily said, uncomfortable with the slightly pitying expressions on the younger women's faces. Didn't they see this changed everything? This is just the way society worked. The twins exchanged another look, and Isabel leaned forward impatiently. That's rubbish. You never would have thought about it if it wasn't for my dolt of a cousin making a mess of things with you. I don't know what happened between the two of you, but you've never considered Em or me anything other than friends, and we will not allow you to start now. Isabel set her teacup down and stood in preparation to leave. "We expect to see you tomorrow evening at the Duke's annual Christmas ball, and we will accept no excuses." "But," Lily began. Isabel pierced her with a formidable stare. "And I'm sending you around a dress later, which you will wear," Lily bemoaned. Taken aback by her friend's sudden show of steel, Lily only nodded. Isabel's expression softened, and she leaned forward to hug Lily. She held Isabel tightly for a moment, touched by the twins' obvious concern and thoughtfulness. Emma hugged Lily too, and started to follow her to another parlor, but paused in the doorway. The new Viscountess looked at Lily with a small smile. "He's absolutely miserable, you know." Lily did not pretend to misunderstand her friend. She wasn't sure how to respond. She stared back in silence until she remembered there was something to say. "He lied to me, and he left, and hasn't been back since." "I understand," Emma nodded, "and I didn't say you should make him suffer for it. But perhaps you could consider that he's hurting as well. He misses you, Lily. I can see it in his eyes." Lily nodded tightly, not offering more than that, and Emma turned to go. She spun back before taking a step. "He's staying. Grandpapa offered him the stewardship of several of the unentailed estates, the ones which were originally meant to go to him anyway. I think he may accept, but something seems to be holding him back." "What do you think he could be waiting for, Lily?" With that and another soft smile, the very clement Emma Hatfield left her friend standing in the middle of her drawing room. Hope rose in Lily's chest, like a dawning sun. And we're switching chapters and seasons. Harry sighed and slouched against the wall, staring out at the couples waltzing on the marble dance floor. It was past midnight, and it seemed quite obvious Lily wasn't going to make an appearance. He still wasn't even sure how he had gotten roped into attending the damn ball in the first place. His cousins were crafty and sly masters at playing the innocent while tying a man up in guilt and confusion. Isabel and Emma had become like the sisters he never had, always on the foot, never content to leave him sulking in a corner or brooding in a conservatory. They poked, and they prodded, and they teased, and they chattered until his ears rang. He adored them. Not that he would let them know that. It would only make it worse. He narrowed his eyes at Isabel as she twirled by, giving him a wide smile. God knew the pair didn't need any boost in confidence. A clap on the shoulder knocked him a step forwards, and a drink was placed in his hand. Harry glanced sideways to see Emma's new husband, Viscount Hatfield, standing next to him. The two men just stood for a moment, watching the dancers laughing and twirling. Harry threw back the wine in one long swallow and looked around for somewhere to place his glass. He settled on the potted miniature orange tree next to him. Hatfield raised one eyebrow and patently amused. "All right, Connolly, spit it out. What's got you so twisted up?" When Harry said nothing, the Viscount merely turned back to survey the room. "Emma's convinced it's Miss Beaumont, the local vicar's daughter. She believes you carry a tender for the woman. Is this true?" "A tender? I don't know if I'll ever speak like you English," Harry grinned, momentarily shaken out of his black mood. He liked Hatfield and was glad Emma had married him. The man was good for her. He'd keep her grounded, as his cousin had a tendency to formulate improbable plans that invariably seemed to get her into trouble. The scheme she had concocted to bring Hatfield to the castle was a perfect example. "I like Miss Beaumont. Yes, I may even love her. I don't know if it makes any difference, however, because she made it pretty clear she wants nothing to do with me." The Viscount nodded sympathetically, and they stood for another moment in contemplative silence. "Royally messed up, did you?" Hatfield asked idly, scanning the room for his wife. Spotting her at the dessert table, he caught her eye and sent her a melting smile. She turned bright red and promptly knocked over a tier of little iced white cakes. Harry rolled his eyes. Newlyweds. "I neglected to tell her that I'm the grandson of the Duke who employs her father, and that I almost seduced her. I'd say, yeah, I messed up pretty badly. If I had a chance to do it all over again, I don't think I would have left the vicarage without her." Harry scratched his chin and slumped against the wall again. How soon could he make his escape? Perhaps it wasn't too cold to go for a ride tonight. Say about 4 miles? "Well, Connolly, it looks as though tonight is your lucky night. Miss Beaumont just arrived. Perhaps you might get your second chance after all." Harry jerked upright, his gaze flashing to the entrance to the ballroom. And that's all.